So I have to admit, when I look at the title on this PowerPoint, a framework for thinking about teaching comp online, I want to slip into my awful Robert De Niro taxi driver imitation. Hey, are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Why don't you make your own damn framework for thinking about teaching comp online? But then I realized, besides the fact that that's just an embarrassing Robert De Niro, that tone would not be an auspicious beginning to our conversation. And I say to myself, let me rephrase this. So I'm going to try this one more time. What this week is about is creating your own uniquely personal and undeniably transcendent framework for thinking about teaching online that takes into account your own uniquely personable and undeniably transcendent experiences, pedagogical principles, most effective practices, while also giving all due respect and reverence for and toward the sum total of decades of online teaching, research, writing, and other uniquely personal and undeniably transcendent experiences of and by your colleagues across this great nation and the international community of educators. Yeah, that's better. So what I think I mean there, well, I really have no idea what I meant there, but what I want to say to you is, as we think about a framework that will help us think about teaching online, what we want to do is get at some principles, a place to say, these are the things I believe in, these are the things that are important to me and I value in teaching and learning. And I want to make those the signposts, the guidelines, the framework for the thinking I'm going to do about all the tools and all the systems and all the assignments that lurk out there for me to explore over the next 10 weeks. And actually, our textbook by our friend, Mr. Scott Warnock, in the introduction offered some interesting ideas. I like his emphasis on building on what we're already good at. Sometimes we think we're moving into an online setting, we have to start over, we have to reimagine everything, but I don't think that works unless you sit down and say, what am I good at? What are the principles that I'm already using? How can I build something online that plays to those strengths and those abilities that I have? I think it's also cool and useful to get out there and find things like the Chickering and Gamson principle list of, principles of undergraduate education that I always forget his name. There he is. Warnock includes in his introduction, and also that nice little list of approaches that he includes in the introduction. Those are good tools. There's tons of other tools like that out there. The point is that by thinking about sort of your own principles and looking at principles articulated by others and by the scholars and by the research and pedagogy that are important to you, you can create your own framework that you can use as your starting point for this 10-week adventure you're on. It's not going to be your ending point. Things are going to change and shift week by week. That's always my experience in the online setting. I'm constantly evolving. But you want to start with a framework of your own ideas that you can expand on with the larger professional conversation without overwhelming yourself. Some core principles. And I'm going to be asking you this week to write about those in our blog posts for the week. But I'm also going to be asking us to think about how those principles might apply, what they might look like in our classes. So to give you a sense of what I mean by our principles should ultimately show up in how we set up our courses and how we organize ourselves, I wanted to show you a class from the fall semester of 2014. I am in no way presenting this as a model, but it was a good semester for me. I had one of my highest success rates in English 100. So something was working better than what I had been doing before. And as we look at this, there's just a couple quick principles about how I teach that are also true in my on-site course, but that show up in new ways in my online course. So, for example, on just a very pedestrian level, I really believe in rubrics and models and using rubrics and models as tools for students to work on their writing. So you can see that on my main page, I have a toolbox where they can get all the resources for paper number 1. There's actually 3 papers, and for each of them, those resources show up in this toolbox at different times. But that's one way where an approach that's important to me, modeling and rubrics, shows up in my online course. And those resources all show up at different points in the course and the weekly lectures and activities and writing and drafting, but they're also collected in other places where students can review them. So that's one thing. Another thing that's important to me is this quest to try to have a more authentic sense of audience. And the way that I have done that both online and on site is through blogs. So I have a link to a blog where students are publicly writing about the ideas, the readings, the things they're encountering in the course. And just to take a quick look at that, this is what a student post to the blog kind of looks like. I like that title. I think that's kind of funny. But they're posting about their writing. They have a works cited citation. They're supposed to have a live link there, but not everything happens in every post. But the point is that this is out there in a world where they have a portfolio that they can share with employers, scholarship committees, admissions committees, whatever. But the idea of a more authentic audience. Not completely authentic, still a creation of an academic setting, but it's something I wanted to try to do. And so that shows up in my course design. Another principle that's really important to me is the emphasis on reading in the comp courses. I'm really committed to having the students fully engage with the course readings and to interweave those course readings with the writing experiences so that they feel very integrated with each other. And so this is an example of how that looks. Just to quickly show you, during most of the semester, a typical week, a typical due date is organized around a day and then a reading and a writing workshop. So I try to create that parallel value that the reading workshop is as important to us as the writing workshop. And then you can see sort of the guidance I'm trying to provide on that, where I'm supporting the reading with some introductory and explanatory material, but then also where they are reflecting on what we're reading and giving each other feedback on what we're reading. And so here you see a peer feedback activity about something they had already written on the blog about their dream career, which was reaction to something we were reading. So I try to design the course so it mirrors my interest in the role of reading in the writing course and the integration of reading and writing. And then as far as writing goes, I believe that students need to see models, so I do include video lectures for them on the writing skills that I want them to work on. But I also believe in a workshop approach. And so each due date, and I have 2 due dates a week, involves some drafting of a current project and some kind of feedback loop on that current project. So you can see when you look at just sort of the basic layout of a writing workshop online for me, it includes some video presentations, but it also focuses on preparing students to draft and to interact with each other's drafts. So just this quick tour of my online course from last semester for English 100 highlighted 4 or 5 of the principles that anchor my teaching, whether I'm online or on site. And again, not presenting this at all as a model, but as a device you could use to create your own framework and start imagining how your teaching experiences and your strengths and your principles of teaching and learning can be manifested in the course you create, even in a structure as rigid as Blackboard. So I hope these ideas give you something to chew on as you go through our action plan for the week and all the readings and activities, and I'll see you out there on our Google site. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video.